Well, hello and happy Wednesday to everybody. It's so good to be back. I'm really glad to have everybody here. So glad to be back after my beautiful vacation off in Sedona, Arizona. It was great. So glad to have everybody here. Let me know if you're in the chat. Let me know where you're from. Let me know what's going on. And love connecting with you all. Just to jump right into it, as you may have seen earlier, today's topic is strengthening your connection with spirit. So, one of the things I really wanted to work with was how do you strengthen your connection with spirit, right? That's really what it's all about. It's focusing on how you really get closer to spirit. How do you get closer to spirit? How do you get that into that place where you allow spirit to begin to communicate with you as opposed to trying to reach for the communication, pull the information, beg the data to start coming in, right? That's what this is all about. And again, we're going to be talking about this. We spoke about it a couple weeks ago, how we can strengthen your connection with spirit. But today is really all about going within. How can you go within? Because that's really the fundamental concept, is going within to focus on yourself, focus on your own spirit, focus on everything that you are doing so that you realize you in fact are a spirit. You are a spirit being, because you know we're all spirit beings having a human experience, not human beings having a human experience, right? Having a spiritual experience. So one of the things that I want to get at is really just focusing on how do we get to that point? How do we allow ourselves to do that? Well, we've spoken about meditation. We've done meditation multiple times, so I'm not going to be redundant about that. But meditation is key. You've got to be working on your meditation. Try to do meditation every day, every other day, whether it's a specific meditation like sitting in the power. It can be guided meditation. It can be a meditation where you're sitting in the silence and just allowing spirit to come to you. And you don't have to have a communication. You just have to be quiet. You just have to be going into that quiet place, connecting with yourself. That's really where you exist, is within. Get to that meditative place where you're really just slowing down, because every day we're running around like our chickens with their heads cut off, right? We've got 20 things to do, and that's kind of why in this high tech age we're all bouncing off the walls, and everybody's got ADHD. It's not just the kids on their phones anymore; it's now the adults have got ADHD, because that's just kind of the way our society has shifted. So now we've got to get back to that old way of living, old way of thinking, where we just take some time out for ourselves. We carve out some time for ourselves, and we begin to realize, hey, I'm important too. I'm going to chill out. So that's great. And I'm just going to give a shout out here to KJ from North Carolina, Kathy Locke out in Texas. Great seeing you, Kathy. Angie, also from Texas. Eileen, all the way from Cardiff. Thanks for showing up again, Eileen. Great seeing you. Megan from Pennsylvania, first time here. Hey, welcome. I'm so glad that you've joined the show. This is fantastic. Thanks for joining me here. And also Barb in Illinois, and Nathan, coming back from Nathan. Here you go. In Texas, there are a lot of people today from Texas, so loving to see that. Maybe I should move to Texas too. Speaking of places to go and states that we should go visit, as you know, last week I was on vacation. So you want to know where I went? I went to go recharge my spiritual batteries. I went to Sedona, Arizona. Oh my God. If you have not had a chance to go to Sedona, Arizona, put that on your bucket list. It is the most beautiful place to go. It is the most energetic, most spiritual place. I now want to move there. Of course, I want to move everywhere, but that's one of the places that I just absolutely love. I fell in love with it the minute I landed on the plane. Of course, it was warmer there, so that helped. But it was just so beautiful. In fact, I got a couple of photos I thought I'd try to share with you here. Here's one of the first ones. This is perhaps one of the most often photographed sites in Sedona. This is called Cathedral Rock. And you can see in the middle there, the three spires are basically the flying buttresses of a cathedral. And that's just an absolutely famous site. And it's absolutely, the pictures unfortunately don't do it justice, right? So that's just one thing. It's absolutely amazing. And then there's so many photos like that. This is another photo that is an image of a vortex and its effect on juniper trees. You can see what's going on. The vortex is a geomagnetic energy that is rising up from the crust of the earth and based on all the magnetism, because you can see all the red rocks in the background. All the red rocks in the background, they're red because of iron oxide. Iron oxide is extremely magnetic, but when they come together with a number of other forces, it creates these massive vortexes. And I think there's 7 within Sedona, which is one of the reasons why it's so spiritual and energetic. But you can see what it's doing to this juniper tree. It's absolutely twisting it like a pretzel, right? You can see there's a tree off to the side where nothing's happening. But this one tree right here is just twisting, all around. And it's absolutely amazing. So what else? There's this photo. This is the only McDonald's in the world that has a turquoise blue M. The story behind that is hysterical. Apparently, McDonald's, when they first wanted to come into Sedona, they started saying, we want to, bring great food to your town, and the townspeople or the council, whatever, said, no, you're not going to come into our town, and they started making a stink. And they were kind of playing games. Apparently, they didn't. They just wanted to see how far they could push it because they knew McDonald's was going to come in somehow. So they just started playing games. They're like, no, 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 no. And so eventually, McDonald's finally came back. On the, like the umpteenth time, begging them to stay there. And so finally, the council said, okay, on one condition. They threw out something that they thought was completely ridiculous. They said, you have to make your arches turquoise, thinking that McDonald's would never do it. Well, they were so desperate to get to Sedona, that's exactly what they did. So this is the only place in the world where McDonald's has turquoise arches. I thought that story was absolutely hysterical. Just drove me crazy. Um, what else here? You can see here, this is called Lizard Rock. When you get right up in front of Lizard Rock, it literally looks like a lizard is staring at you, and it's got 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and it looks like you're staring at something that's like ready to jump on you. It's so amazing, right? It's absolutely insane. Um, and this is a mountain that this is a view that we had out of our B&B. We were staying at a small little bed and breakfast. This is the view from not our window, but from our deck. It's called Thunder Mountain. It goes up to about 6,000 feet. And the reason it's called Thunder Mountain is that there's so much quartz in that mountain that it attracts electricity. And apparently, it gets so many lightning strikes that it's like the most lightning strikes in any one place in the world or something. It's called Thunder Mountain because apparently there was a ranger nearby one day during a thunderstorm, and he counted 97 lightning strikes within 1 hour because all the electricity was getting attracted to the quartz and other minerals that were in that mountain. And so from there on in, it's been called Thunder Mountain. It's absolutely amazing. So those are just a couple of pictures. I don't want to bore you, so I thought I'd just let you see, kind of what I was experiencing, what I was going through, and that's just for like the tip of the iceberg. These pictures just don't do it justice. That's kind of what it looks like all around. You're basically in a canyon, and on three sides, you're just seeing these towering red rocks that go all the way around you. It's perfect for like a military base. In fact, there's supposedly a secret military base, but that's a whole nother story. Um, but there's really no access in or out except for one road. So obviously that road can get rather backed up, which it did. But getting back to our topic for today, what is it that we can do to get close to spirit, right? Um, when you begin to realize that you are spirit inside and that we are basically containers, this human body, this human shell is a container for our spirit essence, we begin to realize that we are much more than just physical human beings, that we in fact are spiritual beings just temporarily residing in this physical shell. When we shift that perspective 180 degrees to that perspective, we begin to realize, well, hey, if I'm a spirit being, why can't I already be connecting and talking to other spirit beings that are not in the physical? Well, it's simple. It's our material mindset. The veil is not out there somewhere. It's not some physical wall that's out there that prevents us. It's not like the sky out there, right? The veil is actually inside our mind. It's kind of, think of it like the filter that prevents us from getting so much information. We'd be overwhelmed, because if you didn't have that veil, we'd be getting so much information from spirit, from all the different vibrations, we couldn't think straight, because there'd be way too much, right? There's this way too much information coming in from something like that that would prevent us from even understanding it. So it's a good thing we've got the veil. But when you begin to think beyond the veil, when you begin to think that you are spirit and all you have to do is allow yourself in your mind to step out of your body to kind of get closer to what's out there, you really begin to realize that it's that possible. Um, so talk about going within, talk about having a connection to yourself, do the meditations, and it takes practice, because if you're not meditating, if you're not used to meditating on a regular basis, then your monkey mind's going to start jumping in saying, I want to interfere. We're human, right? So that's totally normal. um, One of the things that you really got to focus on is also allowing the information to come through, because we're human. We want to control what we're perceiving. That's our logical mind, our analytical mind, our conscious mind. We kind of want control here, right? So if we push our ego mind out to the side and say, nope, I'm not going to allow you to have control. Easier said than done, but that's the theory. That's what you got to do, is you've got to then begin to kind of put your mindset sort of on that daydream state. So that's what I always tell people. It's like when I'm doing a reading, it's very much like a daydream. And I keep on telling this to people, think of back when you were like in the fifth grade, and it's or fourth grade, whatever, and it's 2 weeks before summertime, 2 weeks before summer break, and you're staring out the school window, and you're already imagining what you're going to be doing after class. You're going to be after school. You're thinking, I'm going to be outside. I'm going to be running around that green grass. So your mind is already outside. Your mind is gone. You're not even in the classroom anymore. Maybe the teacher may have said, hey, you student, are you paying attention? You're like, what? Because you were not even there. You were out there somewhere. That's daydreaming. You're out there. That's the state of mind you want to be in. Because when you're out there, you're allowing your mind to be creative. You're allowing your mind to be open. You're allowing your mind to be influenced by the creativity and the sensations that are going on as you experience them, not by the ego mind, not by the logical mind, not by the analytical mind, but by the creative mind. And it's a creative mind that allows things to happen, opens things, and makes everything possible. It's like a child. A child's mind is the most ripe mind for any kind of spirit contact. Why do most children say they've got imaginary playmates because they've never been told, no, you're not allowed to have them. They're anything's possible for a child. The child is the mind where everything is possible. Dandelions, unicorns, rainbows, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, you name it. Flying dragons, it's all possible. And that's why they're able to connect with spirit, because if you really think they're talking to their imagination, and their imagination is you know dreaming up these imaginary playmates, you better think twice, because they're actually speaking to spirit, because they're so open. And this happens up until about age six, maybe age seven. That's when the logical mind starts to kick in, the material mind, the analytical mind. They're told, okay, you got to start thinking math, you got to start thinking logic, you got to start putting all these childish things away. And child says, oh, okay, I guess mommy and daddy want me to think logically now, I will. And so guess what, they squelch it. And that's unfortunately what happens to most kids. So go back to that daydream state. Go back to that imaginary playmate state. Go back to that childhood mentality where anything's possible, and allow in spirit to start communicating with you, connecting with you. One of the biggest things I also tell people is, are you allowing the communication in? Are you allowing spirit to connect with you, or are you trying to control that communication? If you just allow, and you just sort of set the intention, say, I set the intention for the highest good for all concerned. And if you feel that you want to surround yourself with light, surround yourself with love, go at it. That, whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable and happy and positive, that's when you start to invite the loving spirit world to start working with you. And everybody's got guides, everybody's got helpers, everybody's got a team in spirit who is very, very eager to try to communicate with us. We're at a point where spirit wants to communicate with us, and they are trying to work with us through our spirit team. We've all got a spirit team, even though you may not recognize it. We've all got it. We've all got guides, helpers, a team that's there with us, right? Um, so that's something that's very revealing for some people. They may not realize they've got this. So kind of think of it that way. Also, one of the things that I tell people is, when you're trying to develop, when you're trying to learn, just let spirit do the walking. They know far more than we do about how to get their ideas across, how to get their communication across. They know what it is that will kind of trip the wire, as it were. They'll start giving you pieces of information. You'd be like, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that. Because it's kind of like, as I described sometimes, it's like they'll go through your mind, go through your Rolodex of files of all your memories and your experiences, and they'll go, oh, here's one. This is a great one. And they'll pull it out kind of like an old CD-ROM, right? They'll take out the file, put it in the player, and they'll hit play, and all of a sudden, maybe you'll start hearing a song, or maybe you'll just have a memory, or suddenly you'll be like, "Why? Suddenly I'm thinking of my grandmother. Why am I thinking of my grandmother?" That's because spirit's trying to get you to think grandmother, grandmother. And you're like, "Oh, okay, grandmother." Maybe they're trying to get me to start thinking this is a grandmother that I'm communicating with, and they use a lot of tricks like that, and it's brilliant the way they ultimately do this. So if we just allow those pieces of awareness to drift into our field of comprehension, that's where the magic happens. That's where the rubber meets the road. Is always just think about, what is it you're suddenly becoming aware of. Some people say, oh, well, I've got to have this question and answer list. I've got to have this list of evidence, and I'm going to go ask spirit, give me all these pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way down to, like, say 25 or something, right? And they're like, okay, now you gave me that, give me this. Now you gave me that, give me this. Now you gave me that, give me this. Well, if you were in spirit, would you want somebody doing that to you? It is very limiting. They're not able to tell the story about themselves. It's a very narrow perspective of who they really are. maybe they're able to bring forward ideas that you have no clue about. Maybe if you're trying to ask these specific questions, it's going to kind of narrow the whole scope of their existence. If you just say, okay, spirit, tell me about yourself. How can I better describe you? They'll give you all kinds of color, all kinds of descriptions, all kinds of feelings, all kinds of images, all kinds of sensations, smells, tastes, you name it. They'll give it to you because they want to communicate with us. They want to communicate with loved ones. They want us as people who are relaying their messages. They want us to be able to relay those messages. Whether you're doing this professionally, whether you're just starting out doing this, or whether you're doing this for your own personal use, right? It's the same process. Allow, allow, allow. Trust and surrender, right? We talked about that a couple weeks ago, right? Trust and surrender. The concept of trusting spirit and trusting the information that you're getting is crucial because you've got to trust the information. Most people think, oh, that information is just too wild, or that information just doesn't make any sense to me, or that information I can't accept. You got to trust it. And that's the whole point of this, is that if you're allowing your ego mind, your analytical mind, your logical mind to dominate, then you're not going to get the information. You're not going to trust. You're not just going to surrender. You're not just going to allow all this information to happen. More often than not, people are saying, well, I'm getting all this crazy information. That's got to be so weird. It's got to be my imagination. So I'm just going to discount it all. Well, the point of this is give what you get. Allow what you get to be factual. If you assume that that's coming from spirit, more often than not, it is. And the crazier the pieces of information, the more amazing the connection is. There'll be times where I'll get the strangest, weirdest pieces of information. Like, do you really want me to say that? That makes absolutely no sense to me. It's not about us. It's about the sitter. It's about the receiver. If you're reading for yourself, if you're trying to connect to your own loved one, if you're getting like bizarre pieces of information, know that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get through that piece of information to you that you were not even thinking of. There's so much information that they want to give you. There's so much connection that they want to be able to have with you because they're in a different mindset. Not only are they in a different place energetically, but their whole mindset and perspective on reality and existence has shifted because now they've gone beyond this low vibration material existence to a much higher vibration, bigger perspective. They're able to kind of look back on their own lives, their own existence, their own inter- interaction with other humans in the physical and go, wow, that's really different. And they can literally, pair it up with, how things were versus how things are now for them. So that's kind of one thing. So I kind of wanted to briefly touch on that. I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you've got questions, type them in the chat. Let me know what kind of questions you've got, and I'll go through all the questions. Let me see what we've got in the chat now here. Yep. Let's see. And Angie's saying I had an imaginary friend as a kid. Gave them away when I started school. You see, that's kind of the problem is when we start school and when we start kind of that, what is it, the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, or whatever. School kind of regiments our brains, regiments our thought process. We have to start thinking logically, analytically, consciously. We have to, follow the teacher's rules. It's no longer all fun and games. It's suddenly we gotta, be in this place where you're just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna start marching like a soldier. I'm gonna be a regimented person. No longer are you thinking freely. It's all about, that kind of yeah, regimentation is probably the only word I can think of. It totally makes really sort of like the issue there. Um, and KJ's saying, when in the meditative state, how do you know when you've crossed to the other side of the veil when all is quiet? Is it different for each of us? Good question. It is different for each of us. And when you're in meditation, you'll know when you're connected with spirit, when you just start to feel different things. Maybe you're asking spirit to come closer to you. Maybe you'll feel energy. Maybe you'll feel tingling. Maybe you'll feel a subtle shift of the energy around you. Maybe before you weren't feeling anything. Maybe suddenly you start to feel somebody or something, some energy, some presence, something around you, and you're like, that wasn't there before. Why am I feeling that? Or perhaps you start becoming aware of different ideas that weren't there before, or um, different presence of different individuals, people, existences. Maybe they even show up in your mind's eye. You'll start to notice these things as you're focused within. You're focused on your breathing. You're focused on your heart. You're focused on staying still. And then all of a sudden, people or ideas start to slowly, gently, softly, very subtly, mind you, start to appear, and you're like, what's that? Or you start to, like I said, you start to notice the energy. Invite your guides in. Ask your guides to step forward and say, step into my energy. Ask them with love. Say, lovingly, step into my energy so I can better get to know you. And once you feel that energy come in, it could be a temperature change. It could be an energetic feeling that you get. Say, thank you. Could you step back so I can now notice that what it feels like when you are not around me? And then they'll step back and you'll feel it disappear, right? Perhaps, you could do one exercise that some people do where you can say, okay, if you're my main guide, come in on my right. If you're my whatever guide, come into my left. If you're a man, come into my left. Come in. If you're a woman, come into my right. Whatever exercises you want to start doing, working that way. I kind of hope that helps, right? That should kind of give you something. Um, and let's see. Stella's saying hi from New Mexico. Well, I bet, Stella, you've been in Sedona or nearby there. So I hope those photos kind of brought back memories for you, right? And Maria's asking, can we do more of the topic with connecting deeper with spirit? Yeah, I mean that's kind of why we're here, is to learn how we can do this. So it's kind of my goal to keep working with this. And Kathy's saying, my meditation, I asked to see my spirit guides, and at first I saw a beautiful lime green color, and then a black and white photo of Indians came in. It was awesome. Are they my guides? Uh, Highly likely. You're probably seeing representations that mean things to you. Black and white photo of Indians is the more obvious indication that, hey, wow, I'm a Native American. I just want to let you know what background I'm from. Lime green could, represent their vibration, could represent their energy. So, without knowing too much more, I'm guessing that probably it was your guides if they came out of nowhere, right? Nathan was saying, watched multiple screen reading earlier this year for one woman. Had three steps spirits step forward at the same time. How do you sense multiple separate spirits coming through at the same time? Great question. Um, in the beginning, oh my gosh, what a complete snafu that was. When I experience three separate spirits coming through in the beginning, I may not even be aware that there are separate spirits coming in. In the beginning, the information I'll just start to give. I'll just start to whatever, because whatever, remember, the important rule is whatever you get, you give. So whatever I'm getting, I'm giving it out. And in the beginning, I'm not necessarily aware that they're separate. Um, what tends to happen is the information starts to get all jumbled to the sitter, because the sitter's getting all these pieces of information. They can say, yes, that makes sense, but then they can't place exactly who it is because they're thinking all this information is for one person. It's kind of like a collage, right? But then they're like, well, that information doesn't fit just one person. It's like, I'm not getting it anymore. So then I start to realize, okay, it's getting all jumbled. If I realize it's getting all jumbled, I have to go back and start realizing what kind of information it is. Am I getting clairvoyant information where it's just all images? Am I getting clairaudient images, clairaudient sounds where I'm just hearing lots of things? Am I getting clairsentient experiences where I'm just getting all these feelings and all the different, let's call them columns, if you will, columns of evidence as I start to kind of put them in different baskets. Say one basket is clairvoyant, one basket is clairaudient, one basket is clairsentient. I'll start to separate them out. And pretty quickly, you can figure out, okay, this information matches one person. There's like, yes, it does. And it's like, okay, all this other information in this other basket, that matches somebody else. And like, yes, it does. And so the same thing with the third person. So then what you wind up doing is you're saying, okay, now I'm going to connect with the person in one of those baskets who I feel has the strongest energy because you'll start to become aware of these different people and you're like, oh my gosh, guys, you're confusing me so much. And then you just say, okay, give me the strongest, most energetic person, let that person step forward. And sure enough, the strongest person is going to be stepping forward with, and for me, the strongest energy is always somebody who's got the strongest feelings, the strongest clairsentient energy, right? So anybody in that clairsentient bucket of evidence, they're going to step forward, and I'm going to get all their information. We're off to the races with that person, and then we'll just kind of go one, two, and three, right after that. So I kind of hope that explains, how you, the kind of the process. But just be aware of the types of evidence you're getting. Be aware of the clairs that are firing. And if it's all getting jumbled, know they're different spirits and know they're different communicators that are coming in. So I hope that kind of helps. Um, what else? What else? Do, 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 do. I like the sound of directing spirit energy. Yeah, it's one thing that you can certainly work with, and again, just keep on working with your own guides. Keep on asking your own guides to come in so that you know what they feel like. Um, you can ask different guides to come in. Maybe you ask for a healing guide to come in. Ask for a joy guide to come in. Ask for your main guide to come in. Ask for your protector guide to come in. They'll gladly come in because again, they're working with you. They are your team. They're trying to help you. So if you ask them in, they're going to come in and you're going to start feeling, if you're aware enough and you're open enough and you're allowing yourself just to be without analysis, you'll start to notice very subtle shifts. Remember, the bottom line here is all this evidence that's coming through is so subtle that it's very easy to ignore. It's just like, when we're walking around and our intuition is saying, oh, yeah, you ought to do that. How many times do we ignore our own intuition? 99.99999% of the time. We just completely ignore it. It's that subtle because our screaming, obnoxious, loud, conscious mind is screaming over it, right? It's yappity, 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 yappity. That's why you got to calm down and quiet and push aside the conscious mind so that you're actually able to hear these really, really, really subtle voices, feelings, awarenesses, clairs. And you just got to be aware that it's so subtle. The more subtle, the more powerful it is, if that makes any sense, right? So the more subtle it is, you'll be like, aha, I've got something. So just know that the more subtle it is, the more powerful it's going to be, the more meaningful it's going to be. You may have to kind of like stretch yourself and go, what? But just know that you're opening yourself up. And again, the whole concept is your spirit connecting with spirit. So it's from spirit way up here, through spirit in here, to spirit. You're giving that information to the sitter. And spirit, the communicator, is always trying to communicate with you and or your sitter. So just be aware that they're trying to work with you, and you've got to allow for that, right? What else? What else? Okay. It looks like that's most of the questions for today. So I hope this has been useful. Glad I was able to share some of the photos of Sedona. I've got a whole bunch more on my Facebook page. You can probably get sick of all those photos, but they're fun. So take a look at those. And also, if you've got any other questions, by all means, just send me an email or whatever you've got. And you can certainly do that just by shooting me an email at chris@montclairmedium.com. Drop me a line, and I'll be happy to answer your question because that's what I love doing. I love helping people understand, how they can expand their own information, how they can expand their own consciousness, how they can raise their spiritual awareness. So I hope this has been great. I hope you've gathered a lot of information. If you're finding this is something that's of value to you, then by all means subscribe because I'm always going to be putting these videos up. I'm always going to be doing things. Subscribing will help you get the alerts that there's a new episode coming up. There's new videos coming up. So if you're subscribing, by all means, then you'll get all that information. So by all means, do that, or just give me a thumbs up, and you'll be online. So thank you again, and I'm wishing you the best, and hope to see you next week. Tell your friends, come on in. And until then, I am sending you lots of love and light, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.